Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Grondy, reporting for the Main Event Marks YouTube channel and the Dragon Suplex Podcasting Network. This was a fun week in pro wrestling, as always. A fun week in MMA. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. But not a fun week for yours truly. I was very sick. I still did my 75 hard. I did have to pause the yoga video I was doing every 15 minutes to go use the bathroom because I had explosive diarrhea. I'm talking about a Royal Rumble with every entrant being Kane, and my butthole was the ring post during Kane's big entrance. It was bad, but I got through it, guys. I fought through the valiant effort, and I had the heart of a champion because goddamn was I out for the count. I had to pause watching Dynamite on Thursday morning when I called off of work every few minutes to go use the bathroom or fall asleep. It was rough. I'll spare you more details than that. But I did enjoy what I did watch. I'm going to change up the format a little bit here, guys. I'm not going to just run down Dynamite, run down Rampage. We're going to start out with UFC because Covington versus Masvidal was great. Of course, Covington comes out to Kurt Angle's music. Jorge Masvidal has appeared on AEW, so I felt like this was a lot of pro wrestling tie-ins. Plus, Covington is pretty much like a heel pro wrestler. He is a trumper. He has cuts these like kind of crazy heel promos, and Jorge Masvidal is a very liked figure in the world of MMA. So I feel like this had a big fight feel, and it was friends turned enemies. A good storyline built. Trumper versus a Latin guy from Miami. I think they fought before. I think Masvidal won, but this time was a different case. We'll get into it. You gotta love this shit if you're a pro wrestling fan. The story writes itself. Jorge lands a crazy leg kick in the first round. Covington playing heel here with an eye poke and a low blow in the first few rounds. I did think Masvidal had the upper hand in the first 2 rounds, but you slowly saw that go into Covington's way. Covington lands a huge strike in the 4th round and then just starts kind of teeing off on Jorge's face a little bit. Jorge does fire back, starts teeing off a bit himself. And Jorge, kind of fights, holds his own for a little bit here. There was a huge epic strike battle in the 4th, but going into the 5th, it was all Covington. You saw the writing on the wall. Covington won the match. And then he cuts an epic heel promo at the end. He says he already took care of the Miami street trash, and now he wants the Louisiana swamp trash. Calls out Dustin Poirier, calls him a cuck, says his wife's a Jezebel, and says that if it's on site, name the site, proving that Covington doesn't understand what on site means. It's more of a visual thing than an actual location, but I did like the line nonetheless. That fight had a great storyline, definitely a big fight feel to it. And of course, talking about big fight feels, you can't talk about big fight feels without having at least one WrestleMania match come to your head. WrestleMania is very much built on getting the biggest crowds possible, and that most of the time means going a little bit outside the realm of pro wrestling to get the people that don't usually watch pro wrestling. How they do that usually is through celebrity involvement, and this year that is very prevalent. Logan Paul teaming with The Miz to fight the Mysterios. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn, which strangely led to a Ricochet Intercontinental title run. So now Ricochet has had the U.S. title, had some tag gold, now has the Intercontinental title. When he went from New Japan and the Indies to NXT, he was doing real well, and he was a sought-after name, and then he kind of got called up to the main roster, had a little bit of a start-stop push and everything like that. But if you look back, and at his accolades, like a checklist, he's doing pretty well. Definitely maybe past Evan Bourne, for instance, I would say, in the grand scheme of things in WWE history, which is good for him. People kind of saw him as a world champion. Dave Meltzer, for one, saw him as a future world champion. I don't know if he'll ever get there, but he's had a pretty good WWE run. And his latest accomplishment is thanks to Johnny Knoxville, of all people. I don't think I would have ever hit that when he was winning the Battle of Los Angeles in 2014. But also Pat McAfee is now on the show, going up against Austin Theory. Enjoyed Vince on the Pat McAfee show. I really have enjoyed Austin Theory bell to bell in the ring on the body of Monday Night Raw this past year. Pat has had a good match with Adam Cole under his belt, so I'm thinking this match might be the best celebrity match in WrestleMania history. That's right, beating Lawrence Taylor. Just joking, but really beating Bad Bunny from last year. The bar was set pretty high with that, but Bad Bunny was just in a tag match, where this is a singles match that also involves Vince McMahon. So I can see Pat McAfee jumping Bad Bunny in the best celebrity match of all time here. So there's a lot of celebrities. There's the big fight feel with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, but there's not a lot of Steamboat Savage this year at WrestleMania, so to speak. I think that goes on the shoulders of Edge and AJ Styles at this point of the game, at least. AJ, I've had a bit of a disappointment in his WrestleMania Steamboat Savage's attempts, I guess. Nakamura coming to mind. And then recently here, Edge has not had a lot of good WrestleMania matches. I mean, Roman versus Bryan last year was good, but it wasn't the best match of the night, I would say. And then also, or of the show. And also, you can't forget about that empty building debacle that he had with Randy Orton a few years ago as well. So they got their work cut out for them to kind of fill that end of the card as far as WrestleMania goes this year. Filling out the card, New Japan has had no issues with that recently. They've just put their whole roster in this New Japan Cup. The first round is complete. After the second round, I will start watching every single match. There's just so much wrestling out there. I can't seem to watch, Okada versus Master Watu. It's not something I'm going to take time out of my day to watch. I think that end of the bracket, we all know Okada is going to move on, face Tai Chi. I think he's even going to go all the way there. I think, at least to the Final Four. Cima's over there on that end. I want to see Cima versus Okada. I would get a kick out of seeing that match. Hopefully he can beat Hiroki Goto, Cima that is, and get far. I know he's like a special guest, but we'll have to see where Hiroki Goto is on the totem pole of New Japan in 2022. He's famous for not being able to win the big one. But does New Japan consider beating Cima the big one? I'm not sure about that. On the other end of the bracket, we could have Zack Saber Jr. versus Will Osprey. I mean, they're at a collision course with each other. We've seen it before. I'm sure they have done it 1,000 times in the UK, but their styles just blend so well together. Zack Saber Jr. with the ground and pound, Will Osprey with, he's changed his style up a bit lately, but he still has that high-flying style offense. And they're both assholes. I'm sure that they would have a great time cutting promos on one another. Zack Sabre Jr. synonymous with the New Japan Cup after that great 2018 run. Osprey versus LP might be a match that I check out in the second round. That should be pretty good. The other side, looking down further into the tournament here, it looks like Shingo has a date with Destiny advancing just as far as Okada maybe. It would be interesting to see Shingo versus Hiromu Takahashi, a rare LIJ versus LIJ action. But that's what's happening in New Japan. Going into AEW, though, I really want to talk about AEW. I think they had an amazing show. Every match on Revolution was good. I'm talking about, I watched every single match. Pre-show, I watched, the main show, of course, all the way up through it. I usually skip the pre-show in AEW, but I thought the pre-show was pretty good, pretty interesting. I did want to talk about their recent investment, or Tony Khan's recent purchase of Ring of Honor. This announcement was pretty interesting. I wasn't as excited as a few other people were. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people are making. I know CM Punk was pretty excited because he just didn't want the WWE Network to have it. I understand that. But I don't think it's really going to change the day-to-day viewing habits of any particular wrestling fan. I don't think it's going to get other non-wrestling fans to watch wrestling. I think it was, a rich kid, getting a new toy. There's 4 AEW shows. 2 are good. 2 are throwaway. So he's buying a whole nother roster. He's buying, another TV show. I don't really know how he's going to make it work to where it's not stale and boring. I think they should do something where they maybe bring Ring of Honor to the UK and have a week-to-week show in the UK, kind of rotating talent from Dark and AEW and Ring of Honor to keep people fresh. And then when they have big shows, you can do a big show in conjunction with, WrestleMania. You can do a big show in conjunction with All Out. Even if you wanted to do it in Japan, do one in conjunction with Wrestle Kingdom. And that way Ring of Honor, the brand, can go different places that, and keep that brand recognition, and then you can just utilize it to keep people fresh. Like Lance Archer would be great right now to be in a Ring of Honor in the UK because he just had that great match with Hangman Page, but we haven't seen him since. And then some guys that are just kind of hanging around like Andrade, who they didn't know what to do with him, so they paired him with Matt Hardy's faction for whatever reason. If he would have just appeared in the UK and had some great matches over there, built up his name recognition over there before you brought him to AEW. AEW's filling up with talent. Bringing in all those guys from Ring of Honor is just going to have it fill up even more so with talent. And I'm worried that a lot of guys are going to get lost in the shuffle. I mean, look at Jay Lethal. He left Ring of Honor, signed to AEW. We saw him kind of cut a promo for Dante Martin, had a good match with Ricky Starks, and then he's gone. I don't know where he is. And that's a shame because, Jay Lethal was one of the biggest stars in Ring of Honor's ever had. So I worry about now that they brought in a whole roster, what they're going to do if you look at the Jay Lethal template of what they've done in the past with guys from Ring of Honor coming over. I mean, look at the Briscoes. The Briscoes have pretty much been begging for Tony Khan to have him wrestle one match on Dynamite. They've had one-offs before on Dynamite. They're not doing it. So the hesitation with using Ring of Honor stars kind of doesn't get me excited that he bought the whole company, especially if you look at the history of AEW. I mean, Ring of Honor was doing great. Ring of Honor helped fund All In, and that kind of was seen as the first AEW show when it really wasn't. It really was one of the biggest Ring of Honor shows. And then once AEW came to be, you kind of saw Ring of Honor slowly lose momentum to the point where now they're pretty much out of business, or they were until Tony Khan bought it. So I'm not pretty excited about it, but I am interested in this acquisition from Tony Khan. But as far as the show, Revolution, it was amazing. The crowd slowed to get there, which made it for an interesting pre-show, made for a fun pre-show. They were filing in, getting there a little late. I would be upset if I missed some of these pre-show matches myself. I'm surprised they put some of these matches on the pre-show with the significance they had. They might have, missed Don Callis coming out to Kenny Omega's music. I thought that was pretty funny. I popped for that. They could have missed Hook versus QT Marshall, which is, if I had to rank every single match on the pay-per-view, which I'm going to go through right now, Hook and QT would be the worst match on the pay-per-view, but it was a good match. Every match on the show was good, just like I said before. This match kind of reminded me of a Looney Tunes cartoon. QT would set something up, would have a plan, and then he would be outplayed, outmatched, outsmarted by Hook every single time. I was laughing at some of these parts. QT is very underrated. Hook is still over. There were signs. There was, a lot of T-shirts. Hook is over. Hook is fucking over, and QT is helping that with, I think, Hook's best match to date here. So that was number 12, but still a good match. Number 11, Jay Cargo versus Ty Conte. Ty Conte diving on Sterling was good, but a weak chair shot from Anna Jay with a Jade 2 count was kind of lame, and the match was pretty short. Jade wins with the Jaded, sits at number 11 out of 12. Layla Hirsch versus Statlander. Number 10, this was a good curtain jerker. The crowd was mostly empty, which I think killed it, but mostly that made it good was Layla Hirsch. This girl can kill it. She went after the arm the whole match. Then she used a weapon on Statlander. That made Statlander look kind of weak because Jade kicked out of the chair shot. You also had Jungle Boy kick out of the belt shot later on in the tag match. So Statlander's the only one not kicking out of these weapons that are being hit. But, I don't mind Statlander looking weak because Hirsch looks that good. They need to keep advancing Hirsch, I think, in the AEW women's division. Not to shit on the women. I don't think a lot of these matches had time. They kind of plugged the women right after like these spectacle matches to kind of cleanse the palate, and it kind of shows with this ranking system. I love, a lot of these women I'm mentioning, but, their matches kind of got pushed down on the ranks, and none more ever more present than the world title match. Rosa versus Baker sits at number 9. It was a good match, not as good as their other match, and I felt like this was time to put the title on Thunder Rosa. Baker's title reign was a little stale to me at this point. There's no really, who else are you going to heat up to give to Baker? I mean, you have Jade being pushed as the TBS champion. She's a heel. And then the one who's picking up more wins other than Jade is Serena Deeb, who's also a heel. So there's not a lot of faces you can heat up for Baker. So I'm saying flip it and put the title on Rosa, and then you have a title versus title match with Jade. You have Serena Deeb available right there. We know that they can have good title matches because they were both former NWA Women's Champions. And then you could also do the rematch with Baker. So putting the title on Thunder Rosa there sets you up with 3 big title matches, where keeping it on Baker, it kind of sits where it is now, which is, 9th out of 12 matches on a pay-per-view. But moving on, another pre-show match, House of Black versus Death Triangle and Redbeard. This was a great pre-show match. I thought they should put this on the regular show because it had 2 debuts. Buddy Matthews' debut in ring, and also an appearance from Eric Redbeard. I don't know if he's all elite or anything like that, but this is, I think, his first match officially in AEW. I know he appeared on the Brody Lee show, and then he appeared on Rampage, but I think this is his first match. So 2 debuts in 1 6-man tag, and it's the pre-show. Imagine showing up for, missing the pre-show and realizing you missed this match. That being said, great match, dueling chants. Penta uses Black to catapult him into hitting a Canadian destroyer to Matthews at one point. That killed it. But then Mist, Knee, Pile Driver all connect to secure the House of Black victory. That sits at number 8. Number 7, Red Dragon versus the Bucks versus Jurassic Express, the tag team title match. I thought for sure the champs weren't going to retain here. They ended up retaining, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, this All Elite versus Undisputed Era storyline that they're obviously building to doesn't need the titles. So it was good to see Jurassic Express get the win because they kind of need something to solidify them as champs here. They look pretty good here. I like the Doomsday Device kind of lucha style where Matt Jackson's already on Luchasaurus' shoulders, and then Luchasaurus helps Jungle Boy get to the ropes, and then he kind of springboards into the lariat. I also liked Jungle Boy hitting the Hurricane Rana, and when he lands gripping Matt Jackson's back into the deadlift German. I thought that was awesome. So Jungle Boy looking great here. But going on, 6 out of 12 right there in the middle. The surprise match of the show, AHFO versus Guevara, Sting, and Darby. This match was way late into the show. I was kind of surprised that it was on the show. I forgot about this match, but they did exactly what they needed to do. The Darby Allin video package, it was great as always. Andy Dick had this line talking about Jackass and the Tom Green show when it was on MTV back in the day. He said these shows are good because you forget that you're watching TV. It's just so good. You sit back and you're just kind of enjoying yourself. And whenever I watch these Darby Allin video packages, I can't help but have that quote play in mind because I love wrestling, but I kind of forget that I'm watching wrestling. It's kind of just a music video of sorts, just this craziness kind of takes me back to MTV in the early 2000s, which is some of my favorite stuff, as a kid, as an adolescent watching Tom Green and Jackass. So it's kind of blending my two favorite things that I've ever used cable television for, which was MTV in the early 2000s and then pro wrestling throughout, and it's making it one awesome wrestling entrance that involves Sting, my favorite wrestler ever. So who's ever putting these together, these black and white Darby Allin video packages, chef's kiss times infinity and beyond. This is amazing shit. This show was going pretty long, but they did exactly what they fucking needed to do. Just have a crazy brawl. Sting jumps through a bunch of tables. Sammy Guevara and Isaiah Cassidy hit a Spanish fly off the set through some tables. Darby Allin gets the victory for his team, but I'm surprised Cassidy is kind of breaking away from Mark Quinn here. They always use him in matches, in these six-man tag matches. He's kind of the Michaels of the team, and I never really saw Quinn as the Jannetty, but I digress. I guess that's the direction they're going in. Number 5 out of 12. The brass ring ladder match. This match was wild. I love the spot where Lee and Wardlow are lifting the ladder and Cassidy is on top. Hobbs and Lee get bumped off the set there by Wardlow, and then Wardlow gets the brass ring. Wardlow was the overall star making. I don't know where I'm going with this. They made Wardlow a star. I feel like between him and Kingston, those were the two guys that they wanted to push more than anybody on this show, and I think they did so, especially with Wardlow getting the victory here, and then his involvement with the dog collar match. But going on to the fourth match out of 12, it was the world title match. I feel like the final 4 matches I'm going to talk about here, it was up to them to see what match was going to be the match of the night. This was the match that everyone was talking about. Everyone was talking about how this match had its work cut out for it, which it did, because it's, following Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, following Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, following the dog collar match. I don't think it was as good as either one of those. And also, the Orlando crowd, ironically, with the Adam chants, fucking killed it. Let's go, Adam. Are you trying to get yourself over here, guys? This was lame. This was obnoxious. I get it. You've been sitting in that crowd for hours. You're just trying to have fun. But, watching at home, it was horrendous. I was like, let's go, Adam. Okay, this is a chant that's finally worse than the Fight Forever chant. I hate that chant. Of course, they're fighting, but you want them to fight. The reason you fight, the desire to keep fighting, is to become the victor. So to fight forever would then make fighting at all meaningless. So I hate the Fight Forever chants. But then they outdid themselves with the Adam Forever. So therefore, they created the worst chant ever, and then they outdid themselves by combining it with the second worst chant ever right there in the same match. God, that was awful. The champ did need to retain here, and he did. It was a good match, despite what I just complained about. Very nitpicky stuff here. And I think Adam Page just needs to keep racking up victories to solidify himself as a star and solidify AEW as a company that's not just a bunch of guys who are putting over former WWE guys. So having the title on Adam Page is very important for, I think, the longevity of AEW and the continuity's sake. Saying, when you're comparing AEW to WWE, you have to say that we have built stars as well. I think that Adam Page and MJF are the stars that you can point to that says they can build stars that aren't, former WWE guys. So in order to do that, you got to keep the title on Adam Page. Unlike Britt Baker's title run, I feel like there's more stuff to do here, numerous stuff you can do here with Adam Page and that world title. But number 3 out of 12, sorry guys, Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. This match was great. The strikes were great throughout the whole match. Most of the match, they were just teeing off on one another. Mox bleeding from an elbow shot from Danielson here. Let me clear my throat a little bit here, guys. Then he kind of steals the victory from Danielson. I feel like this got me here. I thought it was a fuck up. Mox's legs were kind of in the ropes, and it happened abruptly. But then William Regal comes out. I realized it wasn't a fuck up. He comes out, bitch slaps both men, and makes them shake hands. It looks like they're forming a tag team. The tag division just heated up even more so, especially that the Hardy Boys are coming in as well. So those two teams coming in the later half of the middle half, the middle third, I guess you would say, of 2022 is going to heat up that tag division even more so. Jurassic Express, watch your titles because they might get got. This was great. Number 2 out of 12. The curtain jerker of the main card, Eddie Kingston versus Chris Jericho. Jericho lands on his head right away. I think this kind of scares him a bit. He rolls outside, but Kingston stays on him, gets him back into the match, not in a way that you would kind of overexpose the fact that he's trying to get him in the match. Love the crowd chanting Eddie here, and then Jericho just flicking them off. The chop battles kind of reminded me of an IWGP Never Openweight title match. Jericho exposed the turnbuckle earlier in the match, ends up connecting with it when he goes for a Judas effect. That leads to the Kingston victory. Kingston just got solidified as a star in AEW. Jericho just put him over. I feel like everyone wanted to see him in this upper echelon since he was teaming with Moxley, since he was facing Punk. The crowd knew he could do it, and I think he just needed that one big boost, and Jericho gave him that boost. Jericho looking ripped here. Kingston not looking ripped, but Kingston moving forward. This is great. I think now you can do Kingston versus Adam Page. I think you kind of heated Kingston up to that degree with this Punk match and the Jericho match the last few months. But going on to number 1 out of 12, CM Punk versus MJF, the dog collar match. Dog collar matches are always, they always have that one awkward moment where the chain gets tangled in the ropes because the wrestlers went in 2 different directions. And that only happened once here. Very nitpicky thing here, but I always kind of look for that, like, okay, this is what's going to happen. But they did a good job, much better than Cody and Brody did a few years ago, or last year, I should say. Only happened once, but that's super nitpicky. That was the only little thing I could say about this brutal match. Punk, a crimson mask, crowd hooked the whole time. MJF screams for Wardlow. Wardlow comes out, acts like he doesn't know where he put the ring. This leads to Punk getting the upper hand. Wardlow gives Punk the ring. Punk gets the victory because of the Dynamite Diamond Ring, because of Wardlow. Wardlow finally double-crossed MJF, what we've been hoping for since AEW started. So this now sends MJF down that path. Wardlow versus MJF. Wardlow has the brass ring. Is MJF going to screw him out of that title? Is Wardlow going to lose a match giving MJF the brass ring? I don't know what's going to happen. This is going to be awesome. I think that MJF needs to, something needs to happen here, and then we get Hangman Page versus MJF, in my opinion. That's just me, fantasy booking here, though, guys. Great stuff here. UFC was awesome. New Japan Pro Wrestling, New Japan Cup could be awesome. Of course, WrestleMania is going to be the spectacle we all talk about, maybe complain about for years to come. And then AEW was awesome as well, guys. As always, fly high. I'm out.